weather over eastern Canada.
That's right. We are starting 2015 off on an active weather note for sure, Cheryl. There's the moisture moving through Alberta. I think our meteorologist behind the scenes said Edmonton's seen probably half of the snow that they're expecting, so maybe around 10 centimeters so far. Still yet to arrive for Calgary, and Regina going to be getting a good dump of snow.
Yeah, and then we have another branch of it, the Texas low, and these things are coming together. I want to talk about Edmonton because on the computer models over the last 24 hours, but this is an area that we definitely have to watch. We still have snowfall warnings, a significant amount of snow.
That's right, and really temperature's not too bad. Calgary around 1 degree, I think it was yesterday, dropping now, but that was that push of warm air under this warm front. Lots of moisture. Jasper looking at maybe 15 to 30 plus, and then the darker blue, as you mentioned, 10 to 15 for Grand Prairie in those areas.
When we talk warnings, Regina, you're going to end up with a lot of snowfall. When we look at these maps here, 15, 30 centimeters not out of the question as we head into southern Manitoba.
And there's been a little bit of discussion about this because Regina, typically with a clipper, wouldn't get a lot of snow.
True.
It usually races on through and then it picks up when it gets to the Great Lakes. This is a different kind of scenario because, like you said, it sort of intensifies with that Gulf moisture from that Texas low, and that's probably why we're going to get a big dump of snow in that area.
Can we just go to North Bay for a moment and take a look at the snowfall, just to remind you what winter looks like? Because
there, I thought you said, let's just pick up and go to North Bay. Just leave the building here. Cheryl's from Timmins. You know snow. You know cold temperatures. Maybe she wanted to go home.
I do.
All right,
let's go for a visit.
So this plays out. These systems merge, and get ready for it. It's Cheryl and I were talking. This system, as it affects Ontario and Atlantic Canada, is going to be about changing conditions. Not so much a major snowstorm for anyone, but snow to freezing rain, over to rain, back to snow.
Yeah, I mean, and typically when we talk storm watch, we're talking about high impact storms.
That's right.
And we presume that when we're talking winter that we would say that means snowfall. In some cases, yeah, there's a lot of snow.
Right.
But for a lot of population centers like Toronto, it's not a lot of snow, it's the changeover to rain. So by the time we're done with this whole system, there likely won't be a lot of snow on the ground, but the changeable temperatures is really, we're talking about possibly even a flash freeze situation.
That's right.
Behind the low, and then snow squalls is another concern.
And I'm glad you brought the snow squalls up because the warnings are still in place.
In full force across British Columbia's mountains along the coastal range, and then for the Rockies, of course, we've got some natural snow in the forecast for you as well. When we look at our satellite and radar, we can see that there's still quite a bit of action. We actually have some warnings in place through these areas. Fort St. John, BC, back into areas like Edmonton and down further to the south. So we're definitely looking actually at some snowfall for these areas. Let's go right now to Deb. She is live in Red Deer as we monitor the conditions with this low pressure system coming through. Deb, what's it like where you are in Red Deer? All right, thanks very much for that update, Deb. So here are the snowfall warnings as they remain in place from Environment Canada. We're talking about some excessive snows here for areas in the north of BC, Prince George getting some snowfall too, and then obviously in the Rockies we're going to be getting some decent snows as well. If you're heading out, we have that one branch of the warning for the snowfall, and then we pick it up as the low dips down into the U.S. Midwest. It's likely going to be gaining strength at this point. So these areas south of Winnipeg, south and east of Regina are in a snowfall warning. Now, that's not to say that Regina, you're not going to be seeing a lot of snowfall yourself. We've painted you in between a 15 and 30 centimeter range of snow. So it is more impactful with this clipper system in the prairies in terms of snowfall, and then we have the extreme cold across the north where values are feeling like in the minus 40s. In Ontario, this is actually not the result of the storm that we are following for storm watch coverage. These are the remnant lake effect bands that we've been watching pretty much all week, starting to taper down, starting to see these warnings and watches come to an end. However, now we're gearing up for the next event, and that's tomorrow across Ontario, where we're going to be seeing snowfall briefly changing over to mixing in rain, and then we'll be seeing dropping temperatures by the early part of next week. The snow totals will be pretty high, though, in the maritime provinces, and the big impact for you will be more so on Sunday. These are the remnant snow squall watches in place, and so this is something that we have to be mindful of. The storm watch coverage for this low pressure system, it's two branches coming together over eastern Canada, and we'll continue our storm watch coverage and give you all the details. Sheryl Plouffe with you from the Weather Network. We are Canada's #1 source for complete and accurate weather, and we are throwing everything we've got at these two low pressure systems that are coming together and resulting in a storm worth watching, because it is going to be a high impact storm for so many Canadians. Let's start things off, though. Is really not the result of the big storm that we're following, but we do have some remnant squall activity that we need to be mindful of. And this has been going on for days now, but we're really on the tail end because now the winds are switching direction, but we still have some snow on the way for Newfoundland and then back into Nova Scotia. We do have for Cape Breton. We do have for Cape Breton some more snowfall expected. I'm just going to go over here actually and turn that down so you don't have to hear that. There we go. We have a snow squall watches in place still for some, so that's just something to be mindful of. We're going to continue to follow the next storm system coming through. That will be a high impact storm for you as well. Give you some more ideas on timing in a moment. Additional snowfall, these are the remnant lake effect squalls that we've been dealing with around southern Ontario and for the northeast up towards Sault Ste. Marie. But back into the warned regions, these are starting to drop in nature. So we're starting to see less areas affected by this. And then the next big snow event is coming tomorrow. And then followed by some rainfall too. Let's go back to Nova Scotia and check in now with Nathan and see how things are on the ground there. Oh, poor Nate. I think a sore throat. Maybe you're dealing with that. It's that time of year where a lot of us are sick, right? So get well there, Nate. We do have snowfall warnings in place, northwestern Ontario, across southern Man and Sask. And this is for one branch of the system that we're following. This is the Clipper portion of it. The other low pressure system is in the United States, around Texas, actually. Those two things are coming together and resulting in the big storm across the east. But for the west, it's going to be a lot of snowfall for Regina and points south of Brandon. Winnipeg, you're going to get some snow from this as well. More so later today and into the early part of tomorrow. Back into Edmonton, you're about halfway through your snow event. Calgary getting some snowfall, but higher totals. So we do have snowfall warnings that remain in place for these areas, Grand Prairie through Edmonton and Fort St. John. There is going to be an interesting scenario playing out for Vancouver as well. Our meteorologists are really going over a lot of the detail on the possible winter storm for Vancouver in the coming days as well. So something worth watching there. Through Saturday PM, we've got a lot of snow in some cases for the BC interior, especially to the north. So suffice it to say that we have a very interesting pattern that's setting up. We've got our Clipper system that's giving snow today, mostly to the prairies and into early part of tomorrow. Then the Texas low comes together, moves up into Ontario. Initial snowfall tomorrow, then followed by rain and possibly mixing. And then everything goes into Atlantic Canada, and the high impact storm for you is going to be more so on Sunday. So we'll have lots more storm watch coverage to come of these two low pressures. Is coming in for Sunday and bringing with it yet more wintry weather. So this is what is happening for today and the amounts of snowfall we can expect additional to what we've received. Again, Newfoundland really bearing the brunt of the snowfall. As the winds shift direction, so will the snow squalls. In fact, we're starting to see less and less in terms of watches for these areas. But let's turn it over to Nathan Coleman and see what it's like outside where he is. And you know what? I mean, this low pressure system, the branch that will be feeding into the Clipper across the west, that is going to be coming into Ontario tomorrow. These are just the remnant lake effect bands that we've been seeing today. We can see that the warnings now are really starting to decrease in size. However, tomorrow, snowfall and then changing over to mixing and rain expected. That's why we're following this system. The branch that's coming in to feed into this is actually down in Texas. So there are two things that need to come together. This is from the Clipper system. So we do have snowfall warnings in place for northwestern Ontario all the way back up into Fort St. John, BC. We know to be had on the ground actually in Edmonton by the time this is all said and done. Higher totals to your west. Same for Calgary up against the mountains. And then Regina really seeing quite a bit of snowfall. Despite the warnings being south of you, you're going to be seeing a high impact storm for sure. And really across the prairies, this impact is for today predominantly with this Clipper system that has come through. So then just picking up on those warnings, we can see here that for BC, we don't have anything but some, I believe it's a winter storm watch is in place around Vancouver. That's something that we're following too. But as we look further north, there's Prince George in the middle, Fort St. John, obviously looking at a lot of snowfall here. For is like this for Avalanche Canada, from Avalanche Canada, we can see that we've got differing situations depending on where you go. Now, in terms of the systems coming together, the Clipper system is one part, the Texas low is another. They're coming together and they'll be getting closer to one another by tomorrow, moving into the Great Lakes Basin. So that's going to be a high impact storm for eastern Canada, where we will see actually, well, here are the two branches themselves. So they're coming together like this. This high pressure is moving off, so it gives the Atlantic provinces a bit of a break. However, this is all merging together. It's strengthening, deepening, and moving off into Atlantic Canada. So it is going to be bringing pretty interesting weather scenarios, although we typically talk about winter storm, snowfall. But it's not really going to be so much a snow event for places like Toronto, for example. It's going to be snow and then changing over to mixing and possibly just full-out rain with fluctuating temperatures over the next few days. We have two low-pressure systems that are merging together. That's why we're in Storm Watch here at the Weather Network. I'm Sheryl Plouffe. Glad you're here for an update. We have our satellite and our radar put together here, superimposed on top of one another to show you where the active weather is. And we've got snowfall for many areas in the west. Now, these two low-pressure systems are coming together. This is the northern branch, the Clipper system. So typically they're fast movers, although this one is bringing in quite a bit of snowfall for some. But let's go over to Red Deer right now and check in with Deb Matiechka. She is live on location. The sun coming up. Deb, I don't think it's going to do much to warm you up. On the other hand, though, what's it like where you are? Thank you very much, Deb. Debate no more, because the observations show that it is actually snowing where you are. And we have warnings to my left and to my right. So here we are, snowfall warnings in place from Environment Canada. You may be asking yourself, and I did too, why don't we have these connected? Well, it may just be that we're not within the actual warning criteria for these regions. And also, one other factor is that by the time the low pressure system dips down into the U.S. plains and the Midwest, it's going to be gaining some more strength as well, maybe even starting to tap into some Gulf moisture from the low that's further to the south. So suffice it to say that there is going to be snowfall right in between. In fact, Regina, 15 to 30 centimeters of snow. That's a high impact storm, no question. Today is really more of the problematic driving and getting around today for the prairies, cold to the north and snowfall further to the south and west, as we mentioned with those warnings. Back into BC, Fort St. John included, and then Grand Prairie through Edmonton. There's going to be a lot of snowfall here. Looking at Prince George, a bullet of between 5 and 10 centimeters, but it doesn't take long, and then you really start to run into some higher snowfall totals. Look at the mountains, though. Look at Terrace getting just inundated with snowfall. And the pattern is one where we're going to be seeing some rain along the BC coast, and the coastal range will be getting some snowfall too, and that includes the North Shore Mountains. Avalanche danger ratings from Avalanche Canada look like this today. So what do we have here? Moderate through Whistler and Blackcomb, even Banff, Jasper, so Sunshine Village, for example. If you're down into Fernie, then you've got a considerable risk as well. Pretty decent squalls. You look at that. If you're in Toronto, you look at that and say, really, that's Owen Sound? Yeah, that's what's been going on to your north. So we just have a little bit more to go in terms of lake effect. The warnings and the watches are diminishing in size, but Barrie's still included. Now this is going to taper off, and now we're going to get set for the big event. On Saturday, snowfall to start. High impact weather, mostly across the prairies, being impacted by snowfall today. And then there's another branch, which you don't see on this map, but it's down toward Texas. And it's amazing when you look at the totality of these weather systems, one so far away from this one across the west with the Clipper, but they're coming together. So say all of the computer models. So we're very certain on this, and the northern branch is bringing us some snowfall and obviously a lot of cloud cover here. We've superimposed the two on top of one another. But let's go over to Red Deer and check in with Deb. She is live on location in Red Deer with the snow falling, and it's cold outside. But here we are, Deb. It's January after all. Would we expect anything less? Thank you so much, Deb. We have snowfall warnings in place to the right, to the left. They're all included, and then some of these areas are excluded. Saskatoon, Regina actually is excluded. However, having said that, there's still going to be a lot of snowfall coming your way. This is what our meteorologists believe will happen. 15 to 30 centimeters of snow, and then drawing that line down into south of Brandon. So despite you not being officially in a warning, be aware that there will be a lot of snowfall coming your way throughout the day today. And portions of BC, Fort St. John, yeah, we're included in the snowfall warning. However, we're only about halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway through this event at this point. There's going to be a lot of snowfall for the BC interior to the north. Prince George is included in some snowfall too, about 5 to 10 centimeters. Terrace, a lot of snowfall, upwards of a foot in some cases. And the impact that this pattern has on our avalanche danger rating today is that some areas like the North Columbia Range is high risk today, and then further to the south, considerable for the coast mountains. This is all what's left of the sea effect that we've been seeing for the last few days. So a little bit more additional snowfall to come with this. The winds are shifting direction, so it's not going to be a lot more snowfall, but it's been very unsettled for the last many days across Atlantic Canada. The storm system itself, impact for you more so Sunday. I would say late Saturday and into Sunday. Then you're really going to be feeling the impact of the low. Right now, we just have some remnant snow squall watches in place for Saint-Anne-des-Monts. Additional snowfall forecast for Ontario. Again, we're on the tail end of this lake effect, multi-day lake effect event that we've been seeing, and the warnings are starting to diminish in size as squall warnings. However, we're getting set now for the big event, and that will be snowfall initially, changing over to rain and mixing, and very changeable weather the next many days. Or actually I should say sea effect event that's going on across Atlantic Canada. So when we look at our totals between now and through late day tomorrow, we would expect to see some accumulating snow in addition to what we've seen mostly for Newfoundland. It's also snowing pretty good right now in St. John's. Just by the way, the winds have shifted to the south, but still just a band of heavy snow through that rear area, but back down towards Shelburne. Now in terms of what's left of watches and warnings, we just have a snow squall watch for Cape Breton and for up into the Gaspé Peninsula. This is the break that we're seeing between now and the next low pressure system, which is why we're in storm watch coverage for you as we put all of what we've got against this storm. Let's turn it over to Nate. He's out on the ground outside. Thanks so much, Nate. And that's what's interesting about this whole scenario. By the way, there are some additional snow. There is some additional snow expected with what's left of lake effect in Ontario. This is a warning around Barrie, but now we're tailing this off and getting ready for the next low pressure system. Having said that, it is going to be, now typically we talk storm watch about snowfall this time of year, but in the case of Eastern Canada, yes, snowfall, but also a transition to rain. So it's cold, and then we warm it up, and then we really drop the temperatures down. Could be talking flash freeze situations. Could be talking lake effect by next week as people return to work. Could be talking about some snowfall changing to rain. So very slippery and slushy in cases across the east. But then back toward the west, this will all be predominantly snowfall. Snow totals, it has started in Regina, Saskatoon, also getting some decent snow at this point, and we'll see that accumulating throughout the day today. So again, that's the continuation of that large warning zone that we saw across the prairies. And today really is the day for the prairies to feel the impact of this low pressure system that's coming in and having started actually over the Gulf of Alaska. In BC, 10 to 15 centimeters generally, some areas a little higher, obviously with high elevations. And we do have an avalanche danger rating now from Avalanche Canada that shows us that we have high to considerable as we get into the Rockies. Not so bad at this point for Jasper and Banff, nor for Whistler Blackcomb or for Mount Washington. Weekend storm to watch, yep. So these two lows are coming together. That's why we're following it closely. As they merge, they strengthen, they deepen, they move into Atlantic Canada and bringing with it very changeable weather and temperatures too. Cypress Mountain, earlier this week, the sun was out throughout the week, and we're getting moisture on the BC coast. That will likely result in some good high elevation snowfall, so that's great news for the North Shore Mountains.
It is, for sure, and another blast of cold air. So if you are going skiing, make sure you're going to be bundled up into the long-range forecast. In fact, Sheryl, some of the coldest air we've seen yet this season. Regina, Sunday, feeling like minus 39. Oh! Bundle up.
I want to mention that on this cloud top map, there are two features. One, the low in the west, one, the low in Texas. And these are coming together. That's why we're in storm watch, because these things are coming together and resulting in a high impact storm across eastern Canada. But the one branch, the Clipper system, is a high impact storm in and of itself. No.
That's right, and let's take a look at some of those forecast amounts that we're still calling for. So Terrace, 15 to 30 centimeters, Prince George, 5 to 10, Fort St. John, 5 to 10, and Edmonton, you've probably seen about half the snowfall we figure already, so about 10 centimeters.
There's a little gap here. These areas from Weyburn back into south of Winnipeg and even Thunder Bay are included in it. It's just because the low pressure system will likely be gaining a little bit more strength or deepening a little bit here. But it's going to be, if you were to draw this line, just think of this as a big line of snowfall that's coming through.
And you know what's interesting too, Sheryl, is that, you know, it is all snow over here once this storm starts to develop in northern Ontario. But as it gets into southern Ontario, these amounts will not reflect, you know, the same kind of story that Manitoba's going to be seeing, 15 to 30 centimeters. It's not going to be a major snowstorm once it gets to Ontario, but it'll be changing conditions.
That's right. Well, because by the time it gets to Ontario, The other low from the south is a part player of this whole thing.
That's right.
So
60 or 70 cars involved in this crash. I mean, a band of snow that just didn't move for about 3 hours along the 401.
So we look at this is now looking ahead to these two branches of the lows coming in together. There is a little bit of lake effect still going on, but we're tapering that down now as the winds shift direction. Now the focus is really on the next low pressure system coming through, and it will bring some snowfall to southern Ontario, more synoptic snow, but then it'll be a change over to rainfall and mixing too.
That's right. Saturday is going to be a taste of everything. You're going to think you're in spring. You're not going to know if you're in winter. If you live like from GTA all the way down to Windsor, you'll start as snow by Saturday morning in Windsor, likely afternoon for GTA, and then it'll start to transition to maybe freezing rain, maybe ice pellets, then to straight rain, and then back to snow. Now, if you're in cottage country, a lot of this will be freezing rain and straight snow.
Top 5, top longest, and they're always long, aren't they? Canadian winters.